Hey everyone, and welcome to another video. So today I'm just gonna get right into it because it's really late and I'm cramming and I'm swamped and I gotta get this video filmed tonight, edited tomorrow, and uploaded on Tuesday, so this is crazy. But today I'm going to be going over my year in 2025 in books and like what I read. So my last video that I did was 2025 with my editing, publishing, writing, marketing, my general life in 2025. This one's gonna be strictly the books that I read. So I'm just going to dive right in. So my cousin and I started our podcast last year. We did the first video here on this channel. I'll have it here as a card. And then after that, I think it was November of 2024 when we started doing podcast episodes. And then eventually we did live streams every once a week. We tried where we would talk, the beginning of the month, we would talk about our TBR list for that month. So what we intended to read. And then each time we read a book, we would talk about it, discuss things. We'd go over book news and bookish topics and in the reading, writing, bookish community type thing. And so we've had a lot of fun with that. We've slowed down after my surgery, really. We've both gotten really busy toward the end of the year and haven't really done as many live streams. But my reading goal this year was to read 24 books. So I was like, I want to just read 2 books a month. That was my main goal. So basically let's just get right into it. So according to Goodreads and this other app that I have called Fable, which I did screenshots, and I'll post my little Fable recap here, quickly for you guys so you guys can enjoy that. And keep in mind I'm filming this on the 28th for me because I haven't gone to bed yet. It's the 29th, so I still have like 3 days left. So even though it says my reading streak is 362, I'm going to read the next 3 days to get it to 365. So I read every day this year. I've had my reading streak going since last year though. It just calculates it on Fable from this year. Okay, so this is the Reading Wrap Fable 2025 Reading Wrap for me. My username on the Fable app is author Joanna White. So it says coming from the library of author Joanna White. Let's look back at this year's journey and the stories you explored. This year you read 27 books, reaching 113% of your goal. You exceeded your goal of 24 books. This year you read for 362 days. That's 0.1% of all Fable readers. On average, you finished each book in 11 days. You've held your streak for 362 days, top 5% of Fable readers. Your top genre was romance, finishing 7 more books than last year. Your most popular pick was Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas. 400,000 readers did that. Your rarest read is 5 Steps Better Blurbs by Julie Gilbert. Your hottest take was on Gate to Kagoshima. I gave it 5 stars. Everybody else gave it about 3 stars. Let's close your story with 3 books that made your year special. My best book this year was... I decided to go with Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros. Your most criminally underrated book. I chose, as you can see, I was debating which book to do there, but I ended up going with Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. Most of the fandom doesn't like that book, and I loved it. The most beautiful cover of this year was Gate to Kagoshima by Poppy Karaoke. At least here in a minute, you'll see me scrolling over there. Gate to Kagoshima by Poppy Karaoke. Beautiful cover. So to wrap it all up, Tower of Dawn, Onyx Storm, Gate to Kagoshima, 27 books, 362 days. Romance. So, like I said, my reading goal was 24 books, 2 books per month. So I, what was I going to say? I haven't read any books for December. I have hit a bad reading slump, probably because I've been reading every day for this whole year. And I binged Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass series this year. And I think I kind of burned myself out on forcing myself to read so much. But even despite that, I haven't read 2 books in December. A couple of things: when I was having my surgery recovery in October, and then in November, I read a lot of my books that are unpublished, so they're not on Goodreads, they're not on Fable, they're still full-length novels and they still count. So I'm going to go over a few of those and mention those just briefly from what I can remember, because I did read more, but they're all on my... Actually, I've got my old Kindle right here. So I will mention those as well because they're full-length novels, so I'm over the count by that. It just doesn't show those on Goodreads or Fable. I also read the Bible through twice in the year. I have 3 days left, so I'm almost done. I'm in Revelation, so I'll be finishing the Bible twice this year. Other than the Old Testament, there were some books of the Bible I didn't reread twice, but I've read the Bible through, so that obviously counts as a whole book as well. So the reason why it counts as 26 out of 24 books on Goodreads, and then actually Fable has 27 books, because I forgot to do books read for another book that I did, which is on Fable, just not on Goodreads, so I need to update that. Is because The Assassin's Blade is a prequel to the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas, and it's a collection of short stories, and each of those were published separately, so I did reviews for each of them separately, but I have the single book with the collection in them, so I kind of only counted them as one, which means that I still need 2 books to read in December to count as part of my reading goal. But because I have read my books that are unpublished, just unpublished, but they're full-length novels, and also the Bible, I have reached my goal. And if you count the other short stories, I've reached my goals that way as well. So let's start at the beginning. So starting in January, the first book that I read this year was Ashes on the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. As you can see, I rated it 5 stars. It was the second book in the Crowns of Naxia series, following the story of Rain and Araya. I really loved this book. It was really exciting. I also actually kept 2 different reading journals this year, which I'm so excited for. They each had different things that I liked and wanted to keep track of. And each of them I kept track of my favorite my favorite quotes from each book. So I check marked each time I read something. I haven't done December's yet very much, but so yeah, so here is my list. Sorry, I gotta get it in the camera. Here is my list. Hopefully you guys can see that. Let me make my face a little bigger. There we go. So that has all my star reviews. It has the book title, author, started, finished, and rating. So I did all of that, so I'm pretty happy with that. This one in particular, so this also has my DNF list, which I'll go over, and my wish list. Okay, and this one had a 10-book challenge, different challenges. So first of all, it had a bookshelf, so you color in a book every time you read a book, which I thought was pretty cool. So that's my bookshelf for the year so far. And then it had a 10-book challenge, so I was able to color each book and do them my own way, and I put the title and the author name. So like this is Earthquaking by H.A. Pruitt. Ashes in the Star-Cursed King is listed there. Wrong side. It's the opposite, so I don't know what I'm doing here. And then it also has a 25-book challenge, which I have not completed yet. And I mean, I have, if you count the books that are unpublished, so I may add those on here. But yeah, they're just not published yet. And then this one, okay, so I got that open. And then I did this one too, which again is different. So these are X's instead of check marks, and it has a reading log. I haven't updated it yet, but it's like each month you write what you write down what you read for each month, so you can see like which ones you read the most and stuff. I haven't logged it since October, so when I had my surgery recovery. This is my shelf on that one. I don't think I've updated it either. I meant to, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. This one doesn't have any challenges or anything, but it does have kind of a slightly different review page to discuss. It has more questions on it. Basically, Rain and Araya fight for their court, political scenes, and larger force at play, and their love and betrayal. I don't know. I can't read my own handwriting, so I don't actually know what it says. Okay. So I said it was so good, addictive, well written. I love Rain. He's like equal to Rhysand for me. Tears and true romance, not just spice. Strong female, like intense action. Best boss fight, twists, and more fights is what I said. And I would recommend this. So I read it from the 1st of January to the 7th, and 5 stars on all counts. It was 565 pages. So next up, I read Earthquaking by H.A. Pruitt from January. Oh, that was when I posted my review. So from January 8th to January 21st. And thought it had amazing, okay, the first one had amazing quotes. So Earthquaking, it was 306 pages. I said, Kendall, Tad, Ella, and Andrew go on an adventure to stop the evil throne. I said it's a fun fantasy adventure full of quirky, fun fantasy things that will surprise you. You never know what will happen next. Fun character dynamics, spiritual truths I needed. It's fun. Okay, I already said that. Slow start, but action in the middle. Lots of spiritual truths that came as I needed them. It helps you escape reality, makes you feel like a kid again, quirky fantasy elements. I said, yes, highly recommended to give people spiritual lessons and in a fun and entertaining way. Quotes, the heat on her skin hushed her negative thoughts and reminded her that even if she couldn't hear or see the necklace, he was still with her. You can't go thinking this and that, and is that... I really messed that one up. You can't go thinking this and that is the way it ought to be, because this and that never was. And then I said the soup speech, page 245, if I'm reading that correctly. And then I said, and the other quote I said was, I just don't know why they'd want to do stuff that hurts us and then to keep us from what would hurt worse. And amazing and gorgeous. Illustrations. I love Tad. Relate to Kendall and Ella. I love Kendall and Tad, and the spiritual lessons came when I needed them. So the next book that I read was Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros, and it was a 5-star read, so I pulled an all-nighter and stayed up all night to get to the store as soon as it opened to get a copy. And fun fact, the line was so long, it was like in Target, it like went from like the checkout, so it like went like this and then back, and we almost, like, they were out of the special editions by the time we got there, and I barely got like a regular edition. So it was 527 pages, and I read it from January 21st to January 30th. It was a 5-star read, 527 pages. Xaden is, spoilers for the series, and they're fighting the Venin in a war, and my heart, gah. So my quotes, I said it'll be, well, one of the things that I said about it was it hooked me more than Fourth Wing, and I didn't think that was possible because I loved Fourth Wing, and it hooked me so fast. I said it'll be hard to find a book that tops it, which is funny because I have a book that is equal to it. From anticipating it and how special and like its release day celebration and party was to me, and then the months leading up to it, like the build up to it, this was the first book that I actually like anticipated the release in such a main way, with like in a mainstream release, also going to the store the day it opened and like seeing so many people there to read the same book as me. Like it felt like a holiday, and it was like my first experience with that, and how much it hooked me. And the twist exceeding my expectations, how the book exceeded my expectations. It fixed the romance, the ending. And so my quote is, I posted my entire review. I was like, what do I do with my life now? Seriously, someone tell me. I thought Fourth Wing was the best fantasy book I ever read. But here we are. I loved everything about this book. The middle section was so creative. I love seeing all the different cultures, the twists. The ending battle was a true boss battle. Definitely one of the best I've read. That cliffhanger ending was chef's kiss. I have so many questions, and this book made me feel every emotion under the sun, and it's so many feels. 5 stars, all the stars, every star. What do I do with my life now? See other book for more quotes. So yeah, I think... I can't read my own handwriting. I'm sorry, guys. So yeah, I think the administrator something and what it represents requires taking a moment of space for us both to consider the undeniable fact that I am the worst possible thing for this mission, for my province and for you. Page 360. Was that really necessary? My right... Something won't work for a month. No, but I found it amusing. I'm either completely in love with your boyfriend, or utterly terrified of him. Not sure at the moment. That was probably Riddick or whatever his name is. I love you like a brother, and I get that you lost your leg, and we respect however you're feeling about that, but you're still one of us. You're still a something. And I wrote these so fast and my hand was hurting so bad I can't read any of these, so that kind of sucks. Next was Gate to Kagoshima by my author friend Poppy Karaoke. I read it from, I gotta turn to the other. I read it, no, actually, should be in this one. I didn't put the day that I finished it, but I started it on the 31st, and it looks like I posted my review on February 7th. So I probably started it on February 1st on the AM. Isla goes back in time to 1877 during the Satsuma Rebellion in Japan. I said it's the Outlander of Japan. It's sweet, cozy, epic, historical. It's accurate. It's tragic. It gave me tears. Bushido was a major theme. The samurai, romantic and powerful. I hearted page 259, 268, and 282. One of the quotes was, "How could they hurt someone who had accepted their fate?" That's like, that summarizes everything. It has 290 pages, and it was historical romance, so it was a very different genre from coming, and I was also withdrawing really bad from Onyx Storm, so I probably would have enjoyed it a whole lot. Like, I enjoyed it, but I probably would have enjoyed it a whole lot more out of context from Onyx Storm. So another quote from this book was, "It was a silly thought, but she allowed herself to grieve for the child who would never be, to wallow in disappointment for a past impossibility." 282, for some reason that hit me really hard at the time. So next up was Quicksilver, and Quicksilver really changed a whole lot for me in terms of reading, because I didn't think I would find another book that I really enjoyed as much as like Fourth Wing, and so this started a brand new author, brand new series for me. So I started it on the 8th of February, finished it on the 19th, and it was 5 stars for me. The last one was Gate to Kagoshima. Apparently I gave it 5 stars, so I would probably say about a 4.5, but it's okay. So Quicksilver. Quicksilver's fantasy romance. Ceres is taken to the Feylands and she has powers. My summaries are really great, you guys. And it's an epic romantasy that stole my heart. I love the side characters. I love Ceres. She's a good, strong female lead without being overbearing. I love Kingfisher, but he's really toxic in Quicksilver for the most part of the book until the end. I love his backstory, though. The twist at the end, like, there were so many twists at the end of this book that I really enjoyed. There was a very big twist at the very end that I said I'm not sure about. The Ceres twist at the very, very end, it depends on book 2, so I'm really excited for book 2, and I said that, like, whether I liked that twist or not would determine how book 2 goes. Brimstone, which, fun fact, I did read that later in the year, so we'll get to that in a minute. So, quote, I said, "I choose to believe that all things come from the same place when life begins. I have hope that they return to the same place when it ends. I'll be waiting for you there, Ceres Fane." Kingfisher said that. I was just like, that's so romantic. So next up, Crown of Midnight. So this was by Sarah J. Maas. This is book 2 in the Throne of Glass series. So I read Throne of Glass, barely managed to get through it last year. I heard that you have to get through the first 2 books for the series to get good. So this was a 4-star read for me. I read it from February 20th to March 17th. So this took me a little bit longer to get through just because, it's Crown of Midnight. 420 pages, fantasy. Selena is sent to hunt down a rebellion against the king and falls for a guard captain. Slow start, I said. Hard to get through, but the ending had so much action and lore. I am loving the core magic, the lore, the magic, the history, and I can see it building into the series and turning epic. So it was like really boring and slow, and then the ending was just like kind of like gave you a glimpse of what the rest of the series was going to be like. So my quote from this one, I said, "Everyone was always screaming in Endeavor, and everyone sounded the same when they died." Oh, so good. But she had not forgotten the sound of pain, nor what she had seen them do to others, or to that young woman from Eloe who had begged to gods who did not save her. So I thought that was really good. And so next up we have This is like the order that I added it. So the songbird, and the Heart of Stone I came back to later in the year. So the next official read was Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. So this was another anticipated read that I was looking forward to. It's the first Hunger Games book that she's put out in many years. And it was a prequel to the Hunger Games. So it's Hey Mitch's Games. It was a 5-star read for me. I was a little worried because I don't read teenagers very well. And obviously Hey Mitch was a teenager when this happened. So I was worried that I wouldn't get into it, but this one just stole my heart. So I read it from March 26th through the April 4th. It was a 5-star read at 382 pages. I said, Hey Mitch is put in the 50th Hunger Games, and I put a little heart beside it. I don't know why. 5 stars, got me out of a reading slump, action-packed, because I was still kind of suffering from the Onyx Storm reading slump, and how Crown of Midnight wasn't that good. Got me out of a reading slump. It's action-packed. It had really good quotes. It did what a prequel should do. It adds to the original. I love the male protagonists in this world. I love the male protagonist and this world that I love and like forgot. It was like an old friend, like visiting an old friend again. The best of the series and my favorite of the year, I said obsessed. So it and Onyx Storm at this point were like my 2 favorites. So some of the quotes: they will not use my tears for their entertainment. Just like, oh, it's so good. Big quote, or several quotes. I've only ever been in an automobile a handful of times, in the car to the train station, yesterday, and on a truck for a couple of school trips in the mines. Never one I couldn't see out of. Never when I was being taken to die. No light, no air, like they buried me already. That's so good. I'm grateful for her final gift, that she's denied Plutarch the chance to broadcast our farewell. The moment our heart shattered belongs to us. Let me reread that because my handwriting made it difficult. I'm grateful for her final gift, that she's denied Plutarch the chance to broadcast our farewell. The moment our hearts shattered, it belongs to us. And then, no greater suck it up exists in the history of the games. No humiliation is beneath me. I will bear anything to keep my loved ones alive. Hey, it. I like recapping all of these because it reminds me of all of the things. Whew. Okay, so next up is Protecting Caroline. I read it from April 10th to April 22nd. 282 pages. It's romantic suspense, so a different genre. Wolf and Caroline meet in a hijacking. 2.5 stars. So this was my lowest rating book of the year, I believe. I had such high hopes for it. It sounded so good. It was a free book. The hijack ended way too soon. Too many realism issues that just broke the story, and I hated the ending. I hated her captivity. It needed an editor really bad. But I did have a quote from this one. So I said, she'd always been the friend growing up. All of the boys liked to talk to her, but only to get Caroline's opinion on other girls and if they liked them. And I really related to that because that was me. I don't know why we're out of order on Goodreads. But next up, probably because I added it that day. So next up is The Assassin's Blade, which is this book here, and it had a collection of short stories. So I reviewed each of the stories in that collection. So we'll go over that. But overall, The Assassin's Blade, 451 total pages, including all of the stories. And I read it from May 5th through the 16th, so I read it pretty quickly. It's a collection of short prequel stories set before Throne of Glass. So this was the Throne of Glass book I moved to after Crown of Midnight, and it shook me how much better the writing is and how much better the story is between this and like Crown of Midnight. So that was interesting. It gripped me, got me out of a reading slump, made me, because I went into another reading slump after Protecting Caroline. Got me out of a reading slump, made me fall in love with Selena's character for the first time. And I just said Sam with a tear face. So the quote, you guys are going to know this if you've read the book, and I will just say it because even now I'm getting chills. My name is Sam Cortland, and I am not afraid. I broke it again. It's okay. I can't. Go look up reels. Okay. So this had The Assassin and the Pirate Lord, The Assassin and the Healer, The Assassin in the Desert, The Assassin in the Underworld, and The Assassin in the Empire. So after that, I obviously wanted to keep reading the series, and I did. Justice for Sam. Air of Fire by Sarah J. Maas, so same author. This was a 5-star read for me. I read it from the 16th of May to the 28th, 576 pages. Selena trains in Fae. In Faelands, Kale joins rebellion. Epic stuff is what I said for my summary. It reminded me what it feels like to be a reader again. Epic fantasy at its finest, multi-POV book. I loved that. I'm hooked into the series and out of my reading slumps officially. I heart Selena, Rowan, Kale, another name, and then I said that ending with an exclamation point. Get up. That's a quote. Sam standing just beyond where she could see is smiling faintly. Oh, I don't know. I can't read. Sam standing just beyond where she could see, smiling faintly. That's a fragment, but you know, it's a good quote. How did you come back from that kind of loss? I didn't for a long while. I couldn't. I think I'm still not back. I'm never back. That's another quote. And then, but maybe we could find the way back together. Oh, that is the same thing. So that was on page 304. So 5-star read. It was really good. The series was getting better. So next up, I read Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas from May 29th to June 23rd. So I read that for most of the month because it's 648 pages, so it was considerably longer. It was still a 5-star read for me. I said Aelin is in Rifthold fighting Valg. And then I said Poor Dorian, epic fantasy at its finest again. I said I heart Aelin, Adian, Rowan, that was the name I couldn't read in the last one. Heart Adian from Air of Fire. So I hearted Adian again, Dorian, action-packed, executions, epic, feels, intense, multicast, exciting, not executions. I don't know why I said that. Epic, feels, intense, multicast. So if he got the chance, he would find a way to end it. For now, this was eternity. This was birth and death and rebirth. So he drank Tremon's pain, his fear, his sorrow, and he learned to like it. I don't remember what that is, but it's a good quote. Aelin and Dorian had gotten away. It was enough. When the pain came, he was not afraid. 3 others. I'm in the wrong page on this other one. I can't read anything. 3 others. World for Rowan, and there was nothing he could do to get that. Okay, and there was nothing he could do to get that fuse to save the queen who held his heart in her. I'm butchering this quote. 3 others whirled for Rowan, and there was nothing he could do to get that fuse to save the queen who held his heart in her scarred hands. And then a phantom pain lands through his ribs, brutally violent and nauseating. His knees buckled, not pain from a wound of his, another's. No, 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 no. He might have been screaming it. He might have been screaming it, might have been roaring it as he surged for the passage exit, as he felt that agony, that kick of pain, or that lick of cold. I'm butchering these, I'm sorry. So next up, The River is Waiting by Wally Lamb, and I listened to this as an audiobook, and I would play games on my other phone and just leave it playing. And I read it from June 11th to the 27th at the same time of Queen of Shadows. And so it was crime fiction, so very different genre, and I don't know the page count because I only listened to the audiobook, but it was 14 hours and 40 minutes. So Corby accidentally kills his child and struggles to deal with prison life, and it was like a really good, hauntingly tragic tale that you won't forget. I loved Colby and what he went through. It dealt with a lot of heavy topics and handled them well. I didn't like the woke stuff that it included. I loved the audiobook narrator. He's fantastic. His characterization and emotion was amazing. My quote is, "Worrying is carrying tomorrow's load with today's strength." Carrying 2 days at once. It's moving into tomorrow ahead of time. Worrying does not empty tomorrow of its sorrow. It empties today of its strength. So that was pretty good. Then I continued reading the Throne of Glass series, so I read Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas again. This is 720 pages, so each book gets bigger. I started it on June 23rd and read it to July 16th. It was another 5-star read for me. Aelin and team search for the lock to the word key. Lorcan and Elide hide. Manon escapes the witches. So there was so much going on. This book didn't slow down. Side characters, couples stood out. So I didn't like the main character in this book at all. And this book did actually make me very mad. So now, objectively speaking, I would probably put it at a 4.5. But it had so many other good things about it that it kind of felt like a 5-star read still. Because it's still, like, the series gets better and better. So it was still better than Queen of Shadows, even though it made me more mad than Queen of Shadows. It's very weird. Lorcan and Elide, I loved their character so much. It was action-packed, kept going. This book did not stop or slow down once. Like, it was crazy. Aelin and Lysandra keeping secrets, and the feminism really, really annoyed me. And they're being boosted up at the sake of, like, tearing the other male characters down. And some of the things that they did at the end of this book, keeping secrets from the male characters, if it had been reversed, people would be up in arms about it. And it just made me so mad. I was ragey. So the quotes are, remember what they made you do. Manon says that to Dorian. Remember what they made you do. I wanted to go to Perinthian with you. Lorcan says that to Elide, and I put a cry face. He's like, I wanted to go to Perinthian with you, or whatever the kingdom is called. I wanted to go there with you. It is not such a hard thing, is it, to die for your friends? Dorian says that to Rowan, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the bro ships. So, yeah. So then we go to Tower of Dawn, and after Empire of Storms, the huge cast of characters split, and half of them go one way, the other half go to Tower of Dawn. So half of them was in Empire of Storms, the other half was in Tower of Dawn, so I wouldn't have to deal with the people who made me mad in Empire of Storms. So I was looking forward to Tower of Dawn, and some people do reading both of these at once and in tandem read. I chose to read Empire of Storms first and then Tower of Dawn. So it was, again, by Sarah J. Maas, part of the Throne of Glass series. I read it from July 17th to July 23rd. It was a 5-star read for me. 688 pages. Chaol goes to South Continent to get healed, falls for Yrene, while Nezrin falls for Sartog and becomes a Rukin. I said best of the series, such a vibe. I love Chaol, I love Yrene, I love Nezrin and Sartog. I didn't know who to trust. Like, I was questioning, like, who to believe and who to trust the whole time. Such a good world, race, and culture building. My favorite so far. It was such a vibe. Like, it had a very unique culture and race and setting, and the plot line was good. Yrene and Nezrin are, like, really strong female characters that are done right, unlike Aelin and Lysandra from the other book. And then Chaol and Sartog are, like, really lovable male characters. And the what was I gonna say? The romances in this one are really good because they're emotionally built first. The fight / walking / kissing scene was my favorite in the whole book, and I just put a heart. So some of the quotes, he could still speak with dignity and command whether he was on his feet or laid on his back. The chair was his prison, nothing that made him lesser. He was safety and joy, and it was safety and comfort and joy. Another quote, to living, to being Chaol and Yrene, even just for a night. The darkness liked that, seemed to something. The darkness liked that, seemed to thrive on it. So next and finally, I read Kingdom of Ash, the final book in the Sarah J. Maas series, from the 24th of July to the August 18th, or to August 14th, still by Sarah J. Maas, 984 pages. So at the time, so this was the longest book I've ever read and the longest book of this year. Everyone comes together for war, rescue Aelin, battles epic. Like, it's the Avengers Endgame of the series. Like, all POVs from all the previous books, everything comes together, even the Assassin's Blade stories. Epic conclusion to an epic series, every POV and plot coming together, epic battles, epic sieges. I loved all the male characters. I didn't like Aelin, I didn't like the feminism. Too happy of an ending, ? Is what I said. So I did still have some quotes. She had to make it right, she had tried to make it right, had tried and failed. It is the strength of this that matters. No matter where you are, no matter how far, this will lead you home. I love you, he whispered in Alid's ear. I have loved you from the moment you picked up that axe to slay the Ilkin. Her tears flowed past him in the wind. And I will be with you. His voice broke, but he made himself say the words, the truth in his heart. I will be with you, always. He was not frightened of what was to come for him. Once he tumbled off the horse. He was not frightened at all of it. He was not frightened at all if it meant her reaching the keep. That whole scene with Lorcan and Alid, oh, all of the feels. So the next one that I started was Outlander, and I actually even made a page for it because I was convinced I was going to finish it. And as you can see, I colored up into 30% of it, and it was historical romance, 550 pages in the ebook, and I DNF'd it. So we'll go over my DNF list later, but it is listed in this reading journal. So the next book that I officially read was The Strange, Dark, and Mysterious, presented by Mr. Ballin. It's a graphic novel of his true crime stories, but in like a comic book form. I love his YouTube channel. It's true crime, strange, dark, and mysterious, like crimes and stuff. It's not always crime, but it's like strange, dark, and mysterious true stories in the true crime kind of vibe and genre. I said Mr. Ballin stories, true, dark, and mysterious. It got me through a big reading slump. So after Kingdom of Ash, I'd read so much, I was in a big reading slump. It hooks you. Mr. Ballin is a master storyteller. That's why I got addicted to his YouTube channel, because of the way he tells stories. So the quote that I have for this one: it was determined that after Elsa had fallen asleep and began dreaming about the crown of thorns digging into her scalp, in reality, something really was digging into her scalp. A fox had crept into the campsite and started devouring Elsa's head. So it was a true story about this girl who went camping, and in the night she had a dream that there was a crown of thorns on her head and that her head was bleeding, and she had to get woken up to the hospital. Come to find out, she was actually, like, her head was actually being chewed on by a fox. So that's just like the way that he tells stories. It's just like creepy, dark, mysterious. I love it. It was a 5-star read. One of my favorites. I love him so much. And I really want his next book. So after that, I came back to The Songbird and the Heart of Stone, which for some reason was listed on the other page in Goodreads, but I've got this here, so it's the same as this series, though. So it's the third book in the Crown of Naxia series, and the way that she does it, they're a series of fantasy romance duologies. So books 1 and 2 are about one couple, Rain and Araya, and then books 3 and 4 are about another couple, Misha and Asar, and follow, like, the whole series kind of has a plot line, but they're still like their own story. So books 3 starts the new couple, Misha and Asar. It was 498 pages. I said Misha and Asar traveled to the underworld to resurrect the god of death. So I did not like the underworld. I did not like the death, resurrection, the necromancy stuff. It was a big turnoff for me. That's why I DNF'd it at first in the year, but I came back to it and got through it, and I actually really enjoyed it despite all of those things. It made me fall for it, and Misha and Asar, when it's not my typical type of subgenre of or setting of fantasy. She's a strong female character without demeaning the man. And then I said Asar is epic, cliffhanger ending. So quotes, I don't want to be something you regret, Misha. My soul had been marked by a litany of shames. I'd carry them forever, and I'd likely carry mine too. I knew that, but Asar knew, but the Asar I knew, certain as nightfall, would never be one of them. I would have given her anything, everything, because that was what she deserved. Every single thing she had loved fully and completely about mortality, but I am not a god of any of those things. I have only one gift to lay at her feet, and so I wait. Just like, if you know, you know. His gift is death, by the way. So it's like the touch her and die trope, but like it goes beyond that because his gift is death. So Carissa Broadbent also is like one of my favorite authors because she just has a poetic way of putting words together that's just like, she's a master writer, like the way she puts words together. So that was a 5-star read, and immediately I read it just in time to get The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk. So my cousin reread book 3 my first time while I was reading book 3 for the first time, and then we both read Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk together. I got ahead of her, I think, but The Fallen and the Kiss of Dusk, it's book 4, still about Misha and Asar, but in the Crown of Naxia series. 557 pages. And I read this one. Oh, the last one, by the way, was from August 30th to the 14th of September. This was September 15th to the 10th or the 2nd of October. Asar, spoilers for book 3, by the way. Asar is captured by the White Pantheon, and the underworld is collapsing, and he needs to ascend to godhood to bring Misha back to life. That tells you the whole book. Wow, this book didn't stop or slow down. It kept going. It got really super intense. There was a lot of lore. There was a twist at the end. It was a huge twist. I hated the spice. It ruined the book for me, but it was such a good book if you take that out of it. Satisfying ending that still kind of like linked into the next book, but kind of concluded this story. So the quotes, I already see that every time I close my eyes, and often when they're open, every time I sleep, every time I dream, I see you and his words caught, and Shiket's sword piercing your heart and the moment of your death every time, Misha. And then the next quote is, they need to hear even if it is your fault, I will love you anyway. So good. So I'm excited. Next up is Water Falling by H.A. Pruitt, my good author friend. So I read it from October 3rd to October 18th during my surgery and recovery. So this book came to me when I needed it the most. YA fantasy. It's 339 pages. The kids find themselves in a place with people they don't know if they can trust, and what is the truth is what I said. Super fun adventure. I love that the kids got lost and confused and didn't know who to trust. It was slow to start, but slow in the middle. But I read that wrong. It was slow in the middle, but amazing and exciting ending. Fast paced once they got through to Spator. I can't say that name. So the quotes. Why did he tell us, if he knew everything, why didn't he tell us? Or why didn't he tell us, if he knew everything, why didn't he tell us so we'd be ready and know what to do? The Maker's plan, which she had been doubting existed at all, felt wrong to her and Ella because they had been wanting their own pleasure, familiar and not the quest that Makers had planned. The Maker's plan, which had seemed to contain such horrible and harmful things, really hadn't brought all these bad things. So it had a lot of good quotes about like your will versus the Maker's will, which I needed at the time, even if I didn't want to hear it. So it had a really powerful spiritual lesson, and I really enjoyed it. It was a 4.5 stars or something like that. I can't remember exactly what I rated it, but it was somewhere in between 4.5 and 5 stars for me. So next up was The Last Letter, which for some reason was earlier, in Goodreads as well, but I've got it on here. So next up was The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. So reading Onyx, Fourth Wing, Iron Flame, and Onyx Storm, Rebecca Yarros' fantasy and romantasy series. I was curious how her contemporary romances would go. And so this was her first contemporary romance that I've read. I read it from September 20th to the 28th, 393 pages. So it only took me 8 days. I read the special edition signed hardback at the same time that I listened to the audiobook narrated by Teddy Hamilton and Jessica something. So Beckett's best friend Ryan dies in combat and writes him a letter asking Beckett to take care of his sister. So it's a military romantic kind of thing. Saddest book ever. Very serious. It deals with a lot of heavy topics, but it deals with them well. It very much is kind of on par, like it has a similar feel of sadness and heaviness to The River is Waiting by Wally Lamb, but that one's like prison life. This one's a romance. The heaviness feels the same. This one felt a lot heavier though. Very, very serious, very, very heavy, very, very difficult topics. But I loved all of the characters. I especially loved Beckett and Ella and Havoc and the kids. I loved their romance. I loved Beckett and the military stuff. I'm writing military romantic suspense, so it was very similar. Beckett's like Rebecca Yarros is married to a military man, and she has friends who've died over, like her husband has friends who've died overseas. And she also the military stuff is like so realistic and like pays homage to people in the military and what they go through. And this book was paid homage to parents of child cancer. And I was dealing with a lot of trauma from my surgery at the time. And so it felt like the right time to read this book. I was scared of it when I found out it dealt with cancer, but it ended up being what I needed. So here's a quote. How amazing it is to meet someone through their words before their face, to find their mind attractive and then see if their body follows. That is what's wrong with all of this spice today. And it's like, finally they became pen pals. They fell in love emotionally. They didn't even know what each other looked like. It was not about that for them. And then another quote, if you don't let that pain go, it's going to shape you the rest of your life. Oh, it's so good. So I hit a reading slump and jumped around after the last letter for a while. So it wasn't until December, and I tried books, DNF'd them, tried books, DNF'd them. So it wasn't until November 19th, that I started Brimstone when it came out, and I read it to November 30th. Brimstone is book 2 in following Quicksilver by Callie Hart. So I read Quicksilver for the first time earlier this year, and then as soon as Brimstone came out, I read it. Saris is queen of the blood court. Rot is coming. Kingfisher and Carrion go on a journey. So I said, what an ending. Kingfisher and Carrion's journey and broship is so good. I loved it. And I said, too much unnecessary spice. That really ticked me off this time. So quotes from this. Do you think I am afraid to face my demons? I faced them before. I know them all by name. I've conquered them and bent them to my will more times than the sun has risen over Uvelia in my lifetime. I'll face your nightmares if I have to, and I will still be the most frightening thing prowling around in the dark. Freaking Kingfisher. Okay, I'm fine. And what if there comes a day when all of this becomes too much and I want to be carried? That's one character. And then it would be my honor and privilege to do so, Saris. Never doubt that. Whenever you want me to catch you, I am here, ready and willing. I will face the blood court for you if you want me to. I'll face Belicon and Madra and anyone and everyone and anyone that wishes to do you harm. Kingfisher and Saris. And then every year that I love, it seems the magnet. Where are we at here? Sorry. Okay. Every year that I love, it seems the magnitude of my loss eclipses the last. So yes, I love Saris Fane because she's electric and fierce and loyal, and being around her brings the world back into focus. But I'm not in love with her, Fisher. I tried, but my heart was just too full of sorrow to make room for her. Oh, so good. Such a good quote by Carrion. He had a really good backstory in this one. So the last book that I read this year has been 5 Steps to Better Blurbs by Julie Gilbert, and I read it on November 30th. It's nonfiction, so it's my first nonfiction this year. It's 87 pages, so I read it in a day. 5 Steps to Better Blurbs, that's literally what it's about. It's short but helpful, and it I can't read my own handwriting, but it had a lot of good techniques is what I was trying to say. So the quote I said that really helped me a lot from this book, be careful about what impression you're leaving on the reader. So it's like the blurb will leave an impression on the reader. So I really liked that. And then keep your eye on the target. Your reader buys your book. You need to strike that balance between enticing them and overwhelming them. And I thought that was really good and super helpful. And that was the last book that I read, because in December, that was on November 30th. So December, I have not read a full book yet. I've been bouncing around from book to book, not really sure what to read. I'm in a bad reading slump. I did read a lot of heavy, long books this year, and I've read every day. So, excuse me. and I've read every single day since last October, so I've probably just burnt out on reading. So I wanted to do some shout outs real quick. So I did read through and listen to the audiobook for My Book Immortal. It's narrated by Brandon J. Peterson, and he made me fall in love with the story again. And he's a really, really good narrator, on par with like my favorite audiobooks this year, which has been The Last Letter by Rebecca Yarros. As I said, it was narrated by Jessica Something and Teddy Hamilton. And then Brimstone, the audiobook, Brimstone is by Callie Hart, and the audiobook is by Anthony Poloni and Stella Bloom. Brandon J. Peterson doing Immortal is literally equal to those for me. I really still enjoyed the audiobook narrator of Wally Lamb, The River is Waiting. I don't know his name. And then yeah, so Brandon J. Peterson, shout out, Immortals audiobook. I'll have a link in the description below. So that was another shout out. And then I did read several of my books, November and December, that aren't published, that are not on Goodreads yet, but I wanted to mention them because I did read them, and they are novels and they are the books. So I also read the Bible, which is like life-changing. It's epic. I mean, it's not like I can do an actual review of the Bible, but Psalms is like my favorite. So just Psalms 139 would be my quote from that. So in no particular order, I read my book called The Man in the Cellar. It was my first psychological thriller that I've ever written, and I wrote it last year or the year before, somewhere in there, and I've never gotten to read. I've only reread it like once, so it was fun to read that one. I read what I had written in Apex, which was like 44,000 words. And then I wanted to keep reading it because it's a really good book, and I didn't finish writing. The problem is I didn't have it written yet, so I have to finish writing it first. I read Forged of Silver and Moonlight, which is a romantasy, and I'm thinking about doing a series of duologies similar to the Crowns of Naxia series, but that one was really super good. It's like werewolf, gladiator kind of vibes. It's really fun. So that was one of them that I read. I also read Born of Strength, which was my biblical fiction of Samson. So it's like biblically accurate, historically accurate, just fictional version of Samson, like legitly historical fiction. So I read that one. And I also read Champion of Lies, which is another fantasy version of Survivor, but deadly, but different than my book Survivor. And it's like romantasy, so it's got one single couple, and those two have POVs. Nobody else does. And then I started its sequel called King of Malice, but I haven't finished it yet. So those are the ones that I've read. So Forged of Silver, Moonlight, Born of Sand. What else did I just say? I literally forgot already. This is bad. Yeah, Forged of Silver and Moonlight, Born of Strength, not Born of Sand, The Man in the Cellar, and Champion of Lies. So that's 4 extra books on top of reading the Bible and all those short stories. Hey guys, editing Joanna here. So I realized in my video I forgot to go over my DNF list for the year, and I was like, I could do it in a separate video, but it kind of makes more sense to go over it in this video. So this is my DNF list. And I wanted to start off this by saying any book in this DNF list, like, nothing against the book or the author. Some of these are just victims of reading slumps and or mood reads. Like sometimes you just have to be in the mood to read certain things and you're just not in the mood. There are some books on here that I did legitly not read because of one issue or another. But again, like, I really appreciate anybody who is an author who has had the courage to like write a book and then publish it and stuff. So nothing against these books. Just because I DNF'd you, most of the time it is just me, like I'm the problem. It's my mood or reading slump, like, so just wanted to get that disclaimer out of the way. So the first book that I DNF'd this year was Hostage Security. March 18th, 2025 is when I officially added it to my DNF list. So I think it was in and about that time that I started trying to read it. And I saw this at Walmart. I read the blurb. It sounded good. I had no idea it was part of a series because the physical book that I have has nothing about the fact that it was a book 14 in a long series. So it's a series of standalone military, like suspense, not military suspense, but like suspenseful romances. And it's book 14 and they're each standalone. But by this time, there were so many characters that I guess they were like side characters from all the previous books that it was just like a massive info dump. And reading it, it was, I can't remember if it was like set in the 90s, but it was just like the wrong kind of vibe and feeling for what I was looking for at the time. So that's the first one. At the time of March and April, I was writing my military romantic suspense books and series. So that's kind of what I was looking for. That really didn't do it for me, and that's why I DNF'd it. One of Us Knows that was by Lisa Childs, so maybe I could start the series from the beginning, but it just, I don't know, it just wasn't set in the right time period too. Not like modern times, it was like 90s or something, and that wasn't my mood at the time. So it was just too much info, and it was just not like what I thought it was. So Alyssa Cole, One of Us Knows, I DNF'd this in April of 2025. So the gist of this one was I really enjoyed it, and it was like a psychological thriller featuring a character that has DID, and at the time I was interested in that subject. It was just extremely woke, and I'll be honest, like it was too much for me to overlook. Like in The River is Waiting by Wally Lamb, I really loved that book, and the woke stuff, it was there and it was irritating, but it wasn't enough to like deter me from the rest of the book. This was just like front and center, always there. And it was very obvious in like the character had no memory from like the last 6 years, and so the summary of, oh, what's happened, and then it was just like leftist propaganda of the last 6 years of the time period that this book was set in, and I just could not deal with it because it was overtly political, and that's not what I'm here for. Like, I'm here for the thriller, I'm here for the mystery, I'm here for the DID character involved in the mystery, and so I DNF'd it, and I will not come back to either of those. So Outlander by Diana Gabaldon is another book that I DNF'd, and I guess this was August. I feel like this was after August, so this might have been somewhere in there. But yeah, this one I really want to come back to, and I do genuinely want to read this book. I was reading it at the time, and I started watching the TV show because it got me in the mood for this book, and I genuinely just got into the TV show more because it's faster paced, and like in a lot of times when there's adaptations like that, they have to get to the main point because they don't have enough screen time. Even in a TV show, you're still limited. And so there were a lot of times in this book it just got very slow and it dragged because it wasn't like an interesting extra stuff. Like at first I was reading it because I was interested in the extra stuff that wasn't in the TV show, and I'm like, how is this different? What is extra? But there were times that it was just like dragging and like get on with the plot line, and it just felt super slow. It is book one. It is part of a larger series. I do love the TV series, and I eventually stopped rewatching the TV series because I rewatched it a bunch. The final season of the TV show is coming out next year, so I hope to come back to this book, so it's not DNF'd forever, it's just DNF'd for now. To quote Tigger, DDF, I know he says TTFN, but it would be DDFN, did not finish for now, I guess. So the next book I DNF'd this year is Time Traders by Eli Donovan, and this was in October. So I supported this on Kickstarter. So I pledged the Kickstarter. I got sent the ebook. I started reading the ebook, and I don't know if this is one that is going to be DNF'd forever or if I'm going to come back to it. I started reading it, and it had some woke concepts that were too much, too far, that I just could not deal with, and for whatever reason I just stopped. After that I was like, no, I'm not interested, and I just completely fell off. It was like, in the future time travel is acceptable and a lot of people do it for whatever reason, and in her case she is a paleontologist, so she goes back to study dinosaurs, and they were in the terminal, and I really loved like the terminal. It was like an airport, but it was like an airport for time travel, and it was so creative and unique, and so I was really sad that I just couldn't get past that one particular issue, and that it just sucked, and I was just like, I can't do this, and so I DNF'd it. And I'll be honest, it was one character was a they them, and it was like there was no description. It wasn't clear who the character was, if it was a man or a woman. It's like either going to be a man or a woman, so that's really stupid. You sound dumb when you say that. It's not grammatically correct anyway, because it's a singular person and that's a plural term, and it just sucked me right out of the story to the point where I was like, I put it down and I can't get into it. I didn't know how prominent that particular character was going to be, but he or she, whatever the character was, in the moment, that character was front and center, and so I just couldn't deal with it, so I DNF'd it. Next is Silver Elite by Danny Francis. And this was November. And November, I had gotten my first reading, I got in other reading slumps throughout the year, but this was my first big one. And I started book hopping, essentially. I started Alchemized and I left Alchemized alone. So Alchemized is another DNF book, but I've been DNFing it and then picking it back up and then DNFing it. So it's kind of like a just slower ongoing read for me because it's 1,000 pages. So you got to give me credit for that. Like, it's just going to take me a while to get through it. And I pick it up when I'm in the mood for it, and I put it back down when I'm not. So that's another one right before Silver Elite, after Time Traders. But Silver Elite, so I stopped Alchemized because at the time it was just too dark and I needed a different kind of feel. My cousin and I did a check-in on our podcast, and she had just finished reading Silver Elite in November, and she wanted me to read it to give me my thoughts. So I picked it up, and then the next day, Master of Evil, the Vader novel, came out, and I was so hyped for that book. So I put Silver Elite down, and I was like, okay, I will pick this up next year, and I will start over and just read it from the beginning next year. I only got like 3 pages into it, so I'm definitely going to be coming back to Silver Elite. And the only reason why I put it down was because the Vader novel was coming out and I wanted to read it more. And then later Brimstone came out, and then I hit a bigger reading slump. So all of the books that I want to read that are on my immediate, like, exciting TBR list, I don't want them to become a victim of my current reading slump. So I'm putting them all aside until I know for a fact I'm back into the mood to read again. So after that, like I said, the Vader novel came out. So I picked it up, Master of Evil, by Adam Christopher. And I was so hyped for this book. So I picked it up and started reading it, and I DNF'd it right around the time Brimstone came out, and I started reading Brimstone. But at the time, I also had some issues with the Vader novel, and it just wasn't what I was hoping for. And there's another character, and I like the new character a lot. It just kind of, and he was with Vader, but the plot line kind of like just got boring, and it wasn't exactly what I was thinking it was going to be. And also the prologue, it was from Dooku's perspective, so it was like a flashback to like the Clone War era time, and it seemed like the author didn't know or understand Dooku's character. It really felt like fan fiction-y to me. And then the writing style changes per character, which could be good because then it's like different characters sound differently or have a different narration. And so like with Vader, his narration's always very poetic and dramatic, and then the guy just kind of seems like a normal guy. I can't remember his name, and I like his story and his personality and stuff, and he's with Vader, and they're doing a thing on a planet, and they're looking for like the way to cheat death or whatever, but it's just, I don't know, it just lost my interest, which is really sad because I was so happy for this book. So it was probably the biggest disappointment out of all of my DNF books this year, because I was the most excited for it and it just fell out of it, other than Time Traders. Time Traders was sad. This was just frustrating. So, and Outlander, it was not Outlander's fault, and I'll come back to it. It was just a little slow, and I was comparing it too much to the TV show. So last but not least, and this again is nothing against the author, but it's Bound by Wishes by Jessica Spurriel. So I've been following her on Instagram, so I've been seeing her updates about all of her books, and I've seen not fan art, but I've seen art of this book. I've seen like the trope list. I've seen like things about the blurb, and I've been so excited for this book. It has been on my TBR list forever, and I finally took the plunge and I managed to buy it as an ebook on my Kindle, and I was so excited, and so I started reading it in November at the same time that I hit my reading slump. And I was disappointed in Master of Evil, and I tried reading this book, and I can't remember, this was before Brimstone came out, I believe. So But it honestly, the only reason why I DNF'd this was because it had a big glaring issue in the plot line that I just couldn't get my head around, and it kind of like not really ruined the book for me, but I couldn't get around that to finish the book basically. And the whole gist of the story is, which it was really creative, like the main character is an archaeologist and she was looking for stuff, this like lost city or something, and she ends up finding the lamp, and the main guy is a genie, and the main guy has kind of got that shadow daddy kind of gray character, male character kind of feel to him. So I really liked him. And after she finds him and gets his lamp, it's like she has 3 wishes, and I can't remember if she wishes herself out of there and he rescues her, but either way, he rescues her from the cave she fell in. And then for some reason, he convinces her, instead of using her wishes to help her find the lost city and the king and all that her team was looking for, he convinces her to pretend to be a princess, to let him turn her into a princess to marry his brother. So that way he can get revenge on his brother, and in exchange, he will help her find the lost city. But she doesn't want to do this, and it feels like the author just did that because of the plot line needed it to be that way, because why wouldn't she just order him to, as a genie, take her to discover the lost city, her and her team, and just avoid this whole marriage thing? Like, that didn't need to be part of it. I get that, like, the author needed that to be the plot line because that's the direction the plot line's going, but like in logical sense it didn't make sense, because you have the lamp, you have control of this genie, why don't you just make him show you where the city is instead of going through this whole convoluted deal thing? And then there was like, it was like he could use his magic for a few things, but then it was like, and she had 3 wishes, but then it's like he's doing all of these other things for her, like turning her into a princess, and there's all kinds of magic conjuring things and doing food and pretty dresses and all these different crazy things that it just, I mean, the genie kind of did too in Aladdin, but it just wasn't exactly clear. But like the big issue was like, why is she doing this? Her motivations weren't clear, and it tries to say that she's doing it only because she wants to find the lost city and wants to discover the lost king, and like he made a comment about helping him save his people, but he didn't make it clear what she was saving his people from, and she just kind of agrees without really too much argument on her part, even though this is taking her to a different part of the kingdom where women are still kind of oppressed, and she's still fighting for women's rights in her side of the kingdom, I guess. And it's like very like, there's a lot of cars and different things, so it wasn't clear kind of the world that it was like, oh, okay, well, it seems like it's a fantasy, but then there's like cars and stuff, and then it's like 1900s vibes, but like not really. And then his kingdom is like really far behind, so like where is his kingdom in this world, and why is there 2 completely different time periods? So it just kind of wasn't clear on that, and I feel like maybe a good editor, I don't know, like a developmental editor kind of thing could have helped with that. So the big issue was like, why are you doing this instead of just, he's a genie? Like every time she complained about having to do this deal, I'm like, just make him show you where the kingdom is. And I couldn't get my head around that, and that's why I DNF'd it. And I was really disappointed because I was so looking forward to this book. I was so excited, and she has the second one out, and I was looking forward to that book, and I wish I could have gotten around that issue, but I just couldn't. So I've talked for long enough. Those are the books that I DNF'd this year. Some of them I'm coming back to, some of them I probably won't, and we will see what happens. So back to the video. So this has been my year in review of books and the books that I've read this year. What have you guys read this year? What was your favorite book? What was your least favorite book? Let me know in the comments below. My cousin and I are going to be doing our podcast in the next couple of days, Pens and Paperbacks. I'll have a link in the description below. You can also find a link to it on my YouTube channel's homepage. We will be doing our year in review, like going over all of these books in detail, and like book awards, like a fake book awards thing where we award all of the books that we've read, different categories and stuff. So it's going to be super fun. So be looking out for that. If you like this video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more writing and reading videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. In the meantime, if you liked my year in review of books, then check out my year in review of what I edited and wrote and just did and accomplished and published this year. You don't want to miss it. It's like basically what I did this year, so what I wrote and all the things. So check that out. You don't want to miss it. It'll be here.